Have you ever sat by the window, coffee in hand, wondering why the house feels so much quieter these days? Maybe you've picked up the phone to call your kids only to pause, unsure if they'll pick up or if they're too busy. Maybe they visited less this month than last. Or maybe they said they needed space. And suddenly, you're left in a place that feels uncertain, maybe even a little lonely. Now, before you start blaming yourself or spiraling into worry, I want to ask you something important. What if, just what if, the best thing you could do right now is stop trying to convince them to be with you? I know that may sound a little shocking. After all, you're the parent. You've loved them, raised them, sacrificed so much. Isn't it natural to want them around? Of course it is. But here's a truth that many of us don't realize until it's too late. The more we try to hold on tightly, the more they tend to pull away. It's not because they don't love us. It's because human nature, at any age, resists pressure. So today, I want to offer you something much more powerful than pleading, overthinking, or walking on eggshells. I want to give you tools, habits really, that help you shift from trying to hold people close to becoming someone they're naturally drawn to. You don't have to chase. You can attract. And not through manipulation, but by becoming centered, calm, confident, and rooted in who you are. That's where the magic happens. Let's start at the very beginning. The first and most important thing you need to do is let go of fear. Fear is sneaky. It doesn't always show up loudly. Sometimes it comes in the form of over-texting, checking your messages 10 times a day, saying yes when you want to say no, or feeling a little sick to your stomach every time your child says, "I need space." That's fear whispering, "If I don't do something, I'll lose them." But here's the thing. Fear is the worst guide you can follow when it comes to relationships. When you act from fear, you give off an energy of desperation, even if you don't mean to. People can feel that. And let's be honest, have you ever been drawn to someone who seems panicked or needy? Probably not. That's because fear repels. Confidence attracts. Imagine for a moment that your relationship with your adult child is like holding a bird in your hands. If you clutch it too tightly, you hurt it. But if you relax and allow it to sit there by choice, it may just stay. Letting go of fear doesn't mean giving up. It means releasing the need to control. You start trusting that love doesn't have to be forced to be real. Now, I know that's easier said than done. Fear can feel very real, but it's also often based on what-ifs. What if they forget about me? What if they never come back? What if I end up alone? Take a breath, my friend. Those are thoughts, not facts. And when you pause long enough to notice them, you start to realize that you don't have to believe every thought your mind throws at you. Here's a little practice to help. The next time you feel that anxious pit in your stomach, that urge to call, to check in, to explain yourself, stop for a moment and ask, "Am I acting out of fear right now?" If the answer is yes, take another breath. Sit with it. You don't have to move right away. That's how you begin to break the habit. Let's build on that with something even more powerful. Visualizing success. I know. It might sound like one of those trendy things younger people talk about, but stay with me here. What you imagine becomes the blueprint for how you feel, how you act, and how others respond to you. Have you ever walked into a room already assuming someone wouldn't like you? And then somehow the conversation felt awkward from the start? That's not a coincidence. The way we think shapes the way we carry ourselves. If you walk into a visit with your child already expecting tension or rejection, your tone, your posture, your energy will reflect that, even if you don't realize it. So instead, try this. Close your eyes and imagine a calm, joyful moment with your child. Maybe you're sitting together on the porch. There's laughter. There's ease. You're not trying to prove anything. You're simply enjoying each other's company. Feel that moment. Let it settle into your body. When you practice that often, your mind starts to make it more real. And you naturally begin showing up that way in real life, relaxed, grounded, and open. This isn't about pretending everything's perfect. It's about choosing to picture the connection you want to have, not the fear you want to avoid. That tiny shift changes everything. And now, let's take that visualization a step further. Once you've seen the moment in your mind, and you've done your best to bring peace and presence to your interactions, the next step is perhaps the hardest, but also the most freeing. Do your best and let go. Let go of the outcome. Let go of needing a specific response. Let go of waiting for them to behave a certain way to feel okay. You see, you're not responsible for their reactions. You're only responsible for how you show up. That's your power. Trying to control someone else's response, especially a grown child, is like planting a garden and then yelling at the seeds to hurry up. It doesn't work, and it doesn't help. Your job is to be the parent who shows love without strings. You show up, you listen, you speak honestly, you give when it feels right, and then you let the rest unfold. When you let go of the pressure to make every moment go perfectly, you start to enjoy what's actually happening. You become more present. You start noticing the good. And your child? They'll feel that. They may not say it out loud, but they'll sense that shift. That you're no longer trying to grip their time, attention, or approval. And ironically, that's when they may lean in closer. You've already spent decades doing your best. Through every sleepless night, every scraped knee, every hard conversation, you've earned your peace. You don't have to chase anymore. You get to simply be. And being fully, calmly, with love is more powerful than anything you could ever say or do to convince someone to stay. Letting go doesn't mean giving up on the relationship. It means making space for it to breathe. When you stop trying to control the outcome, you create room for connection to grow naturally. And that's a beautiful thing. Now that you've begun to release fear, pictured a calm and connected future, and let go of the pressure to control what happens next, you may already feel a small shift inside. Like maybe, just maybe, you're beginning to come back home to yourself. That quiet strength you once had, before the noise, before the worry, it's still there. And now is the time to honor it. Let's talk about something we often give away without even realizing it. Our time. As we get older, time feels different. We feel it passing in a way we didn't when we were younger. Maybe that's why it stings so much when it feels like we're waiting around for someone else to make space for us. Waiting on a call. Waiting for a visit. Rearranging your schedule just in case they have time for you, and then they cancel or never follow through. It's easy to fall into that pattern, especially with family. But let me ask you this. If your time is precious, and it is, why treat it like it's not? There's something powerful about quietly valuing your own time. You don't have to announce it or make a grand stand. You simply live in a way that reflects it. You pursue what fills you up. You go to the class. You take the walk. You work in the garden. You read the book. You spend time with people who bring you peace. And here's the surprising part. When you stop waiting, people start noticing. There's a quiet magnetism to someone who is fully living their life. They're not sitting by the phone hoping someone else gives them permission to be happy. They're already living it. And that energy is powerful. You don't have to explain this to your children. You don't need to guilt them. You just show them by example, what it looks like to live well. And whether they say it out loud or not, they will see it. And some part of them will want to be near that light, Sykes. It's the kind of energy that doesn't beg. It invites. This brings us to a mindset that can change your whole emotional landscape. Detachment. Now, I know the word detachment can sound a little cold, like you're giving up or distancing yourself. But that's not what I mean at all. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop needing. Think about that for a moment. When we're deeply tied to someone's behavior, when our happiness rises and falls based on whether they visit or call or say the right thing, we lose control of our own emotional life. Detachment means reclaiming that control. You still love them. You still hope for the best. But you're not emotionally tied to every twist and turn in the relationship. It's like watching the tide. You admire it. You respect it. But you don't try to grab the water and hold it in place. You just let it flow. You stay on the shore, rooted and calm. That's detachment. And it gives you a kind of freedom that no one can take away. Now let me be clear. This isn't easy. It takes practice. It takes gentle reminders, especially on the hard days. But it's worth it. Because when you detach with love, not anger, not punishment, you give both yourself and your children space to be themselves. And in that space, beautiful things can grow. Let's take it even deeper now. There's a little habit, a quiet one, that can change how you feel day after day, especially when relationships feel uncertain. It's gratitude. Not the kind you fake, not the kind you force, but the real kind. The kind that bubbles up when you take a breath and realize that even if today isn't perfect, it still holds something good. Maybe it's the sound of birds outside your window in the morning. Maybe it's the way your coffee tastes just right today. Maybe it's a memory that still warms your heart. Or the fact that you're here, right now, still growing, still learning. When you begin to notice these little things and truly give thanks for them, something in you shifts. The ache of loneliness softens a little. The fear loses its grip. Because you've remembered that your life isn't empty. It's full of small joys, of quiet beauty, of moments worth savoring. And do you know what happens when you begin to live in that kind of gratitude? People feel it. They may not say it, but they feel it. Because you become lighter, less burdened, more enjoyable to be around. And again, this isn't about pretending to be happy or hiding your feelings. It's about choosing, whenever you can, to focus on what's here instead of what's missing. Let me give you something simple to try. Before bed tonight, take just 1 minute, that's all, and name 3 things you're grateful for. Say them out loud if you want. Write them down. Whisper them to the stars. But really feel them. And then see how you sleep. See how you wake up. You might be surprised how something so small can shift so much. So now, with fear released, success visualized, your best effort given, your time valued, your emotions a little freer, and your heart turned gently toward gratitude, you're not the same person who started this journey a few minutes ago. You're steadier, quieter inside, more open, not because you've tried harder, but because you've begun letting go. There's a quiet kind of strength that comes with everything we've talked about so far. Maybe you can feel it growing inside you now, that gentle sense that you don't have to fight so hard to be seen. That maybe, just maybe, the real power comes from being anchored in yourself, no longer blown around by the winds of someone else's choices. And that brings us to something many of us were never really taught. How to keep our emotions in check without pushing them down. Especially when it comes to family, emotions can rise fast. You might feel hurt when your kids cancel a visit last minute. You might feel frustration when they don't return a call or seem distant during a conversation. And it's easy to let those emotions take the wheel. But here's the thing. When emotions take over, we lose our center. We say things we don't mean. We interpret things in the worst light. We spiral. And afterward, we feel drained, sometimes even ashamed. but it doesn't have to be that way. You can feel things without letting them control you. Let's say your adult child seems cold or short with you over the phone. Your first instinct might be to take it personally. Did I do something wrong? And then you feel a sting in your chest. But what if instead you took a breath and reminded yourself, this is one moment. I don't have the full story. I can choose how I respond. Just that pause, that space between feeling and reacting, is where your power lives. When you stay calm, you give the situation a chance to breathe. Maybe they're overwhelmed. Maybe they don't even realize how they're coming across. But if you react emotionally, it adds fuel to the fire. If you stay steady, you become the calm in the room, and people feel that. That calm draws them in. This isn't about being passive or pretending things don't bother you. It's about choosing not to be ruled by emotional waves. You feel them. You acknowledge them. But you don't act from them unless it's wise to do so. And yes, it takes practice. Especially if you've spent decades putting others first, biting your tongue or carrying emotional loads in silence. But there's freedom in learning that not every feeling needs a reaction. Sometimes peace is the most powerful thing you can offer, to yourself and to the ones you love. You've made it this far in the journey, and now, there's just one thing left to do. Let it all sink in. This isn't the kind of lesson you learn in a single day. These aren't tips you check off a list. These are shifts in how you carry yourself, how you see yourself, how you choose to live, especially now, in this chapter of life that so many call retirement, but I like to think of as becoming, because that's really what this is about. You're becoming someone new, not by changing who you are, but by remembering who you've always been when you're not trying to please, fix, or convince anyone of your worth. You're becoming someone whose presence speaks louder than their words. Someone who doesn't chase connection, but attracts it through quiet strength. Someone who values their own time, their peace, their joy, and trusts that others will either rise to meet it or fade away. Someone who feels deeply, but doesn't live at the mercy of their emotions. Someone who doesn't just hope for love, but embodies it. You don't need to chase your children to prove you're worthy of their time. You've already lived that love in 1,000 ways. The meals, the rides, the sleepless nights, the quiet prayers. That love is stitched into everything you've done. Now it's your time to live. Fully. With presence. With strength. With grace. And if your children return, wonderful. If they don't, your life is still full, still worthy, still radiant. You don't need to beg. You don't need to convince. You simply need to remember who you are. So, before we end, I'd like you to repeat this quietly, or out loud if you're ready. I am a magnet. Say it with your chest open, with your heart steady. Not because you're trying to be someone else, but because you're coming home to the best parts of who you've always been. I am a magnet. I don't chase. I don't convince. I attract. With calm. With dignity. With joy. The right people, those who truly care, will feel that energy and come closer. Not because I ask them to, but because they want to. If this spoke to your heart today, I want you to know, you're not alone. Many people your age are walking this very same road, quietly navigating the shifting roles between parent and adult child, wondering how to move forward without losing themselves. So please, leave a comment and share your thoughts. I'd love to hear what this stirred up for you. And if you found even a little clarity here, I hope you'll tap that like button and subscribe to the channel Strong Elderly Life. There's so much more we can walk through together. Life doesn't end at 60. In many ways, it's just beginning, in richer, wiser, and more beautiful ways than you ever imagined. Here's to living your best life at any age. I'll see you next time.